What's going on, guys? It's your boy Player X, and you are listening to the Semi-Limited Podcast. Just want to give a quick thank you to all the listeners out there, everyone who's been tuning in, checking out all the social sites, following us, sharing the pages, sharing the episodes, especially with all their friends and whatever. We love you for it. Much love for you guys for doing that, and we love giving back to you guys. So before we get into today's topics, because we have a whole bunch of them to get into, and another very special guest, we're going to actually obviously plug in our sponsor, Unplugged Gaming in Manlius, New York. Be sure to check out their Discord server in the description box below. You can go down there, join the server, and you can catch up with all the TCGs that they're involved in. I'm talking about Lorcana, I'm talking about Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic, One Piece, Flesh and Blood, whatever it is you guys want to play, they got it down there for it, and they got a community for it. So go down there and check it out and interact with all the pages. And if you show up in person, be sure to say that the boys over at Semi-Limited sent you, and you'll get a gift. Speaking of which, we'd like to shout out our Twitter and our TikTok, because if you follow those, we have like 2 or 3 more followers until we hit 50 on Twitter, and I think about 10 more on Instagram. So when we hit 100 Instagram followers, 50 Twitter followers, and 50 TikTok followers, we'll be doing a whole bunch of giveaways for you guys, whether it be play set of cards, maybe some accessories, maybe some merchandise. You never know. Comment down in any of those medias and tell us, and we will try to get that in for you. And we're so close. So let this be the last fucking time I'm telling you guys, because I'm tired of fucking saying it. And also, we also have Brad Streams, which is streaming on Twitch on Saturday nights at 11 p.m. So Brad, Mr. Perfect, will be streaming on his Twitch, which is affiliated with the Semi-Limited Podcast. So be sure to check him out on Saturdays. Jump into stream. He's usually play testing, deck building, or practicing for bigger events or for locals the day after. So be sure to go in there and interact with them, because remember, anything that happens on the stream also comes up into the podcast. So be sure to check that out. We'll be talking about that on Friday's episode. But before we get into the major episode today, I just want to introduce our guest that we have tonight. It's a guy from YouTube who I've been following for quite some time. He's always a really down-to-earth guy. I really liked following his content because it was so just genuine, and you could tell it was all authentic and all him. And I really kind of gravitated towards it. So I've been a long-time fan. But without any further ado, I want you guys all to give a big warm round of applause or a guest. Spanko Yugioh.
What is going on, guys? I'm happy to be here. I'm excited. I already feel like this is gonna be a good podcast, good episode. So
glad that you're excited. You can definitely feel the energy in the air. You know what I'm saying? Before we start, do you have any shout outs that you want to plug in, or anyone that you want to give a shout out to?
Guys, make sure to go follow the Semi-Limited Podcast Twitter and the TikTok. Get that 50 followers.
See, even he fucking knows it.
Well, you already know. I'm trying to get those giveaways. I'm trying to get entered in one of those giveaways.
You're about to be one of them.
That's what I'm saying.
All right, so yeah. If he wins, you guys know he rigged it. So
yeah, guys, sorry about that. Got to do it for myself. Got to be selfish a little bit. But I don't really got no shout outs, to be honest with you. Make sure to check out the channel if you guys want to see deck profiles, combo videos, dual replays, all that good stuff. You guys can check it out on my channel. But then, yeah, make sure you guys are subscribed and listening in as well.
And then where do they catch you on your social platforms, like Instagram, Twitter?
Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all that stuff. Spanko Yugioh. I just really wanted to make it universal, really wanted to make it simple. Any social media platform, Spanko Yugioh, and you guys can find me.
That's what I like to hear. Very clean cut. So
yeah, very crisp.
As you guys all know, while you're all there following all of us, make sure you're following all of him. And speaking of which, congratulations too. If to my knowledge, you are now freshly off the market.
Yeah,
good now. You're officially engaged now, if I'm correct.
Yes, sir. Locked up. I got engaged
we go.
February, so it's been a few months now. It's a good feeling. I found the run, and it's crazy because a lot of people talk about how things change or you feel different being engaged or getting married. But I feel like once you find the one, she becomes a friend, and it doesn't really feel that different. Like I don't really feel that different. We've been together for 4 years almost now, and so pre-engagement, post-engagement feels the same. If I'm just more excited, and it feels almost like a fresh start to the relationship. You're starting something brand new. You're planning your wedding. We're gonna start living together. All that kind of stuff. So it's crazy. It's a big step, but at the same time, I'm excited.
No, absolutely, it's a huge step. And as someone who's actually going through it myself, I'm actually currently engaged. My fiance's been with me for about 5 or 6 years. Her kids moved in. Like we're all comfy, cozy, and all that stuff. And it really is life changing. And it does take a certain type of mentality and growth to be able to do a marriage. The marriage isn't just like all fun and games like most people think it is. It's like duty and like work, and it's a lot of like time investing into not only yourself but other people as well. A lot of commitment towards the other one. You know what I'm saying? A lot of selflessness.
Responsibility is a good one. I think responsibility is a good word here too as well. It's a lot of responsibility. You're not thinking about just
Absolutely.
yourself anymore. Your consequences or your actions are consequences for yourself and your partner now, and your kids, and everyone else associated with the family.
Absolutely. When you're responsible for more, a lot of the respect and I would say standards go up as well. So
Of
I
course.
definitely can't wait to see where this goes with you. And congratulations to both of you guys, and a happy life, and you guys are going to be living soon. So
Thank you.
did she always know about the YouTube thing? Is that something you first mentioned to her? Or is that like you kind of slipped it in?
I do want to tell you a funny story. So when me and her first met, I remember I think I was in university, okay, and what I would do is I would always go to like my locals in my university would host it every Tuesday. So every Tuesday, I'd go to locals, and at the time as well, like I was doing a lot of buying and selling with cards, playing Yu-Gi-Oh a lot and whatnot. And she didn't know for the first couple months, so she would always just be like, "Why would you go ghost on Tuesdays?" And I'm like, "Oh, I got meetings, I got things to be at, I got people to talk to, whatever." And bro, I swear to God, I was just making up any excuse just to be like,
Yeah, I got 4 meetings, 45-minute meetings.
yeah. She's like, "What do you even do?" Blah blah blah, blah whatever, whatever. And I think 2 or 3 months in, I'm like, "Hey, listen, I like this girl. I obviously see this being a long-term thing. I can't hide Yu-Gi-Oh forever. So I kind of just told her, I was like, "Hey, by the way, like on Tuesdays, I've been like going to locals. Like it's like a game I play, and like the easiest way to explain Yu-Gi-Oh to someone who doesn't really know card games is imagine video games but in real life, right? That's kind of how I explained it.
Yes.
Imagine like I'm telling you I'm going to play Fortnite or Call of Duty or something, like, but instead of hopping on
Literally
a
that.
PlayStation, it's just going to locals and playing a game instead,
It's
right? Same
cards.
thing.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it wasn't that special, and I swear to God, man, when I told her that, she like breathed the biggest sigh of relief, and she was like, "Aladdin, you don't understand. I thought you were a drug dealer." She's like, "I thought you were a drug dealer, bro." Because like
That's wild.
I would buy and sell cards, and then and I'd take her out on dates or whatever. And sometimes here and there I'd slip in.
Pulling
I'm
out
like,
knots
"Yo,"
of cash.
and yeah, I'd slip in. I'd be like, "Oh, yo, I made $200 today, or I made $400 today, or something like that." She's like, "How are you making $400 cash in the night?" Like, and you also call me at 10 p.m., 11, because locals usually is like from 7 to 11. So I'm calling her at midnight, or I should have text at midnight, and she's like, "Bro, you're coming home late. You're telling me you're making money. What was going on?" She thought I was a drug dealer for the longest time. And I was like, no, it's all clean.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, that was funny. So yeah, that's kind of how I told her about Yu-Gi-Oh. I was like, okay, there's two ways of going about this. Either one, I keep hiding it, or two, she thinks I'm a criminal. But
I don't know. I'm in the second one, motherfucker.
yeah, and then but yeah,
I'm Kingpin, baby. Sorry.
yeah, but like I don't know. The way I thought about it was, I'm like, what? If I really want to see the relationship to succeed, I don't want any secrets. I don't want any like.
Yeah, you got to be honest about something like
sneaking
that,
out.
especially when you're going to like trips, regionals, YCSs, big trips like that. You
Yeah.
can't just be telling, "Oh yeah, I got a business meeting for the weekend."
It's bad, right?
We'll see if I make the second business meeting on day 2. You know
Yeah, like I might be home, I might not be. We'll find out.
Yeah. The most vague answers.
Right? It's really bad. It's really bad. So yeah, no, I just wanted to be open and honest about it, and it was good. She accepted it. She's been one of my best supporters, I think, to this day.
Yeah, most girls are. Once you're honest with them, a lot of guys think that if you're more open with that with your girls, especially the girls that you're more like serious about, that they'll just think of you of a nerd or something like that. But honestly, they just think of all guys as nerds, so it really doesn't matter whether it's video games or cardboard, or whether you're just playing with your ATV in the back in your dungeon with your man cave. We're just all nerds. It doesn't really matter. You might as well just be honest with them.
Everyone's a nerd about something, right? Everyone has their own hobby, so it doesn't really matter what it is at the end of the day. I think what happens is, and this might be a psychological thing, but I think what happens is like when you're with your partner, and your partner sees that you're passionate about something, or you have ambition. I feel like that's, I don't want to say that's like a turn on, but it's a very, they look at that as something, like as a good thing, right?
No, it definitely is. Yeah, it's attractive for sure when you are ambitious about something.
Exactly, right? And they look at it like, oh, he can commit to this, he can probably commit to me. I feel like it's a psychological thing. Maybe it's not something they think about, or like cautiously.
Oh, it is. They do. I know for a fact they do.
So yeah, it's nice. But she's really been one of my strongest, like my day one supporters. She's helped me a lot with my stuff. She gives me a lot of ideas. She gives me a lot of confidence, and yeah. So I'm gonna owe a lot of what I am today to her.
No, absolutely, and I agree with that, and 100%. Much love to both of you guys. I can't wait to see her more on the channel and to see how you guys grow. Even my wife too, when we first started talking, she knew about Yu-Gi-Oh from her child's baby daddy. because he used to play in high school, but she
Yeah.
didn't really know what the game was. So when my boys started coming over, and I'm really kind of, I don't want to like toot my own horn, but I'm like call myself a pivotal part of the local scene. So like a lot of people over at my house, a lot of people are playtesting. If they need cards, they come to me type deal. So I've always had people coming over, and so we just play cards in the kitchen, and we call the kitchen locals, and we have about, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 niggas in the fucking kitchen, just all playing cards on tables, and we're all just chilling, big vibing, and then Maddie would come in and just like, yo, this is what you guys all choose to do, like just play cards. And then once you found out about the prices of cards, oh my god,
Yeah,
it was
that's
over.
I'm not gonna lie, that one's tough. That one's tough to explain the prices because Yu-Gi-Oh is expensive. But I will say, like, bro, if your girl or someone ever your partner ever comes to you and they're like, you know, why are you chilling with the boys playing Yu-Gi-Oh? You can just tell her, I would you rather be doing this or at the club right now? And
Big
they
facts.
have to make the choice. And I'll tell her every single day, I'm like, you have a man who spends his off time trying to, you know, create his YouTube channel, try to create like something out of it, versus like you could also have a man who's going to the strip club every weekend and go, like, you know what I mean? Like,
He belongs to the streets.
exactly, bro. So I don't know, but everyone has their thing.
No, I agree. I agree. But, once again, congratulations to both of you guys. Can't wait to see it. Speaking of congratulations, getting into the episode, now that we kind of went off on a little tangent, we have a quick congratulations to our local player, Ryan App, who actually over the weekend went over to the Philadelphia Regional. Him, Albert, and Brendan all drove down there, and he took it all home, baby. He took that whole regional down. I think there was 500 plus. I'm going to say like 510, 515, something like that, over that weekend event. And he went there with Brandon Despia, took the whole thing down, brought back to first place, got the deck box and the mat, and a nice whopping, I think, 30 point, if not 32, then if
right?
it was, yeah, I think it might have been 64. I think there were 64 invites given out, so it might be 64.
Nice.
Yeah, but yeah, him, Albert, and Brendan are all on the world's grind. But yeah, so like, he went down there, took the regional out, and played Brandon Despia. For those who are interested in the deck profile, be sure to go to the YouTube channel. That's in the Linktree link down below, where you can follow our sites. It should be posted on most of those social sites, but you can go down there and check it out. Ryan App's first place, Brandon Despia lick from the 2023 Philadelphia Regional. And as well as doing well, for most people who have heard of the bigger events, the YCS over in Canada happened this weekend as well. And that was taken down by none other than Jesse Cotton.
The greatest in the world.
About to say, the greatest to ever do it, baby. The GOAT himself.
The greatest in the world.
He piloted Unchained, for those who don't know, all the way to the top. Going, I think there was 12 rounds in total, and then a top cut. And he played it all the way up. I think it was Chris LeBlanc also in that top 4 cut. He had beat Chris LeBlanc to get into the finals and then won the finals straight up from there. So good to him. And there was a lot of different decks too, because I think he's tied now with Chris LeBlanc for most YCS wins, most YCS wins from a North American player.
I think
they both have 5. Yeah, I think they both have 5. And it's the race to see who gets the first. Who do you think will get the 6th one first?
I don't know. That's going to be tough. Listen, when Jesse wants to grind and when Jesse wants to be the best, I'm going to be honest with you, and maybe this is me because I'm Canadian, I'm biased, but when Jesse wants to be the best, he's the best.
Yeah, when he's not trolling with ninjas, he's definitely like the best player in any room.
I feel like Jesse Cotton's very much one of those guys who is a big thinker when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh! He's an innovator, right? And of course, not to take away from any of the other great players, Chris LeBlanc and a lot of these other great players, but I feel like a lot of people play cookie cutter stuff. If you think about Jesse Cotton, him and I think Pac might have been working on it together, but this new wave of Unchained deck, like the way that Unchained is now played, that was never a thing before Jesse, right? People didn't play the Nightmare Griffin stuff. People didn't play what's that card that he played, Marionette Might or whatever.
Marionette Might, yeah.
In the mirror match, like that's all Jesse Cotton, you know what I mean? And I'm sure he has a team around him. It's probably not just him. I mean, it could be just him, but yeah, he's definitely one of those guys that thinks way outside the box.
No, I agree. It's even players like Chris LeBlanc, and like I said, not to take anything away from Cotton, but like Chris LeBlanc is another player who just got it out the mud and has really been a part of this community for such a long time and really grinded and learned his intrications. I've actually played not against him, but like around him, his general vicinity at a lot of the regionals he goes to that I'm actually a part of, and he's just a phenomenal player. Like he may get a bunch of gripe outside of the dueling arena, but inside that arena, that man is a fucking problem. So there's a reason they call him the City Boys. You know what I'm saying? So like I think it could be a toss up to either one. I think my money, if I were to put a bet on it, might go to the Chris LeBlanc being like a little bit more of the underdog. But Jesse Cotton for sure proves every time and time again why he's the fucking best. So
Yeah.
And speaking of that event, there was a lot that was going on in the top 32. So for those who don't know, the top 32 breakdown is as followed. We have one Sprite player, one Rescue Ace player, one Vanadium player, one Labyrinth player, one Infernoble, one branded Chimera, not branded Despio, one branded Chimera who made it in. We have 2 Flu players, 4 Kashtira players, 5 Pirelli players, 6 Dragonlink players, which kind of took me by surprise. And then to top it all off, the most represented deck in Top Cut was Unchained with 9 players in that motherfucker. Would you think that this is a good variety of decks that we could have seen, I think, over the weekend in general? I think this is a good spread in general of all the decks that were in that room as like a whole, like, you know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of little rogue decks in there, but like you can see with the higher numbers in those other decks where the representation really stuck with like the good pilots.
So where I'm actually a little bit surprised is actually, okay, there's a few places I'm surprised. Fluondery still topping stuff is still just wild to me. I have no idea why people still play that deck, and I don't have no idea why that deck still tops. Like, I don't get it. The deck does nothing.
It's a consistent deck, dog. No,
The
you
deck
think it
does
does
nothing,
nothing
man.
until it does everything he needs to do. Then
Nah.
you're like, all right, then you're on turn 4 or 5, and you're like, why am I losing? And he still has fucking M-Pen up.
Listen, I might be a hater, but bro, I feel like that deck, because I've played against it a few times at regionals. I played against it at locals as well. I feel like that deck, it sees that Harpy card, that trap. I forgot what it's called. Not Feather Duster. Featherstorm. Yeah, you see Featherstorm and that deck auto wins. You don't see Featherstorm, the deck sucks. So,
but they get thrust into it now.
But I will say another thing that actually caught my eye. I mean, Flu did catch my eye, but another thing that caught my eye was only one Vanadium. I feel like I was anticipating, and I feel like a lot of other people were anticipating Vanadium to be a much more powerful and much more represented deck. But I feel like it fell off pretty hard. Not sure why, if that's just people not wanting to play it, or the deck's actually not as powerful as we thought it was.
I have a couple players in our locals who play Vanadium, and a bunch of them were saying that it was very, very strong when people were able to do the Calamities lock. But that's like I'm being told that's like a 6 and 10 shot. So it's not always happening. It's like, yeah, it's kind of consistent, but it's like you're committing a lot of resources to it for it to lose to something like a Droplet, a Book of Moon, or some shit that can't return it. So they eventually wound up cutting that card. Majority of the Vanadium players. There's some people who are coping and trying to make it work still, but a lot of them are just choosing to end on the for Negate Appaloosa with the Baron, the Savage, and that's still a strong board. Don't get me wrong, but I just think that they're moving away from that Calamities lock and into more of a mid-range board where they're trying to actually keep pace with other decks.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing, right? Like, I still don't even think that's a bad thing. It's like you said, right? That's still a good board. So I'm just surprised it hasn't done better. Like, I don't know, maybe if it's just representation again, maybe it's not enough people are playing it. Unchained getting so many tops, though, I'll be real with you. I still think that deck, I don't want to say it's mid. The deck is definitely powerful and it's definitely good.
I agree with you. Nah, it is mids. It is a strong deck, but
it just feels like the worst of the meta decks, right?
So ugly.
And I'll be honest, like, the way Jesse played it, of course, and obviously he piloted to the win. Like, it's definitely a good deck, and he's obviously a great pilot. And I'm sure a lot of these people who topped were. But for me, it was surprising because at the 3v3, I think, Jesse and Pac were playing in the finals, and they were both. It was either the finals or the semifinals, I can't remember, but they were both on Unchained. People saw all the text, and it was on stream too. So it's not like anything caught people off guard at this event. So for people not to be prepared for Unchained it's just weird to me. Maybe people thought it wouldn't come back. Maybe people thought it was like, oh, this is just a one-time thing. I know everyone was trying to play Phantasme at one point because they thought Phantasme would be a good card into it. But the thing is, Phantasme draws you a bunch of cards that if you're not drawing cards out the board, it doesn't matter. So I feel like people were, I don't want to say they were building their decks wrong, but I feel like they were trying to prepare. But okay, I drop Phantasme on you, but if I'm not drawing a board breaker or something after that, what is that Phantasme doing?
Yeah, I don't want to say it was wrong. It was just definitely ill-prepared just because it wasn't as effective as people were thinking it was going to be.
Exactly.
Which is why I think it's such... I don't want to... I definitely classify it as an ugly deck because it's strong, but it doesn't have any, like, appeal to it. You know what I'm saying? It's not like... There's no, like, far and away great... It's like a Link deck. It just destroys some shit. You know what I'm saying? It's not that great. But... It reminds me a little bit more of like Rika. I compare it to where Rika is another very, very strong deck, but it's very ugly. Like there's not a lot of pizzazz to the deck. There's not a lot of flash to it. It's very simple, cookie cutter, she princess or Rika queen, whatever she is, and it's only good because the tech cards that beat the meta, like Kashtira, Pirelli, branded like Ash Blossom, Book of Moon, Eclipse. things like Droll, Shifter, all those cards that these meta decks are playing don't really affect Unchained like that. But like if you're playing Nib, they can get to that XYZ in like what, the third or fourth summon, and then now your Nib is, you know, pointless. If you try to go for things like Veiler or Imperm, they've got the level 6 that can now target to just pop things just to get rid of it. You know what I'm saying? So like they can dodge targeting, they can dodge hand traps like Nib and Droll. They only search once. So who really cares about that? So like they're just good because they're so strong in a niche where they're playing a really strong board through all of the meta traps that are meant to like stop the other decks in the format.
Yeah, and I feel like cards like Book of Moon, cards like Book of Eclipse, Droll, all that kind of stuff that you mentioned. Yeah, they're good into everything, but they're not good into Unchained. Funny enough, so
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's cool that we see a bunch of different decks in the top cut. I don't think that's a problem. Koshzora falling off. I'm just looking at this list right now. Koshzora falling off is interesting. I still think that deck's good. I just feel like people may just be bored of it, to be honest with you.
They are. It's banless fears, if anything.
Yeah, I think people are just bored of it. But I'll be honest with you. I think it's a pretty cool top cut. I feel like as a top cut that we see, it makes me feel like if you're watching this or you're listening to this, it makes me feel like if you guys want to play the deck that you guys want to play and enjoy, you guys will actually be able to enjoy the game and also be competitive. It's not one of those formats where I have to play tier or else I'm not winning anything, or I can't compete if I'm not playing tier, right? So yeah, I just feel like it's a good format. Yeah,
I agree 100%. You know, it's funny. Shout outs to Ryan Gentili, another guy who is in our local area. He actually just messaged me today because Ryan Gentili is known as the guy who just collects. You know what I'm saying? He takes cards and he'll put it in his binder, but he's always talking about how he's going to come back, but he doesn't. So I just make fun of him and just say all these cards he's looking for to pick up that are, you know, meta relevant. I'm like, oh, they're just going to stay in your binder, so no big deal.
Yeah.
But he just hit me up saying that, hey, I just listened to the podcast and I am convinced that you're right. I should play this format because it's good and I want to have some fun. So he's getting out of his little shell and coming out. The clouds are gone and the sun is coming out, and all these, you know, the meta decks are kind of like taking a step down, and like all these other side decks are having a leg up on the competition now. So as you said, like if you really are struggling or were struggling previously on like playing your rogue deck or your fun deck, you know, now's the time to do it. With a spread like this, it's pretty evenly distributed.
Yeah, and I would say I know one gripe people have with formats like this where there's a lot of good decks is they'll always say, oh, but there's too many decks. How am I supposed to prepare for everything? How am I supposed to side for everything?
I hate that argument.
I think the argument is relevant sometimes, and I think it's a valid argument sometimes. I feel like in a format like this one, it's kind of like we were talking about. Droll, Book of Moon, Imperm is good into pretty much everything except Unchained. So if you're playing all these staple cards that's good into everything, the only thing you really need to make room for in your side deck, I guess, if you don't want to main for it, is the Unchained matchup, right? I feel like everyone's already playing like books for purely, you know, Imperms. All these kind of cards are good into everything. So I feel like right now is not one of those formats where you side for everything, because everything you side kind of hits everything, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of, there's a lot of overlap, which I think is really powerful.
Yeah, the overlap. I was about to say the overlap is pretty big.
Yeah.
And that's what makes a deck like that so strong, is because the overlap is so big, and it still can prove that with the right pilot, you can maneuver those murky waters and get yourself to those big wins, you know?
Yeah.
Pivoting up to see how this meta is pretty diverse. I don't know, are you aware of some of the cards coming out in the next set, Age of Overlord?
Okay, so I suck at this. I'm going to be honest. There are times where I am super into formats, and there's times where I'm kind of like, man, I don't care what comes out. I'll see what happens. And I feel like I'm in one of those stages right now where I actually have no idea what Age of Overlord is going to bring to the TCG. I heard the Horus stuff is actually spicy, but I've heard the Diabella Star is one of those decks that's really overhyped. Now, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't want to give you guys an opinion because I truthfully don't have an educated opinion on this.
Yeah, well, even the word on the street is still an opinion, you know what I'm saying? Like, the gossip has gotten to you in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, and so what I've heard is that people are overhyping it. People are, I don't know if they're buying cards out and stuff already for it, but I feel like it's one of those decks, or not I feel, but I've heard that it's one of those decks that doesn't have enough cards yet to be able to do anything. Now, that's not to say that it doesn't have a lot of potential. It's just not ready yet, or out of the gate, I should say. So Yeah, I
No,
have
sure.
no
Out of the gate, I
idea.
think it only gets one monster. The Diabell Star monster is the only one that comes out. You get like a couple spells for it, but that's
Eh,
like that's it.
Apparently, it's supposed to be like a 1 card combo, though, right?
Yeah, yeah, correct.
Yeah, so like that's the thing. It's one of those things where I think people are really drawn to the idea of a 1 card combo, but that's not always going to be the best deck in the format. Now, I feel like with Age of Overlord, it's also going to depend a lot on the ban list, truthfully, uh, because I don't see. I mean, other than Kashtra, you can argue maybe Magnamut goes to 1, and that's kind of the Dragon Link hit. I don't really see a lot getting touched like super heavy on this next ban list whenever we do get it. I don't know, it's hard. It's hard. When the new set comes out, okay, let me say this. When Dune came out, right? I feel like Dune was a set that was supposed to break the meta. Rev Synchron was something everyone talked about.
Yes.
You had cards like Crimson Dragon, which of course people on the Mana DM players wanted to play Crimson Dragon the Calamity, and Mana DM as well, right? But you think about it, like Dune was one of those sets where it's like, oh my god, everything got support, everything is meta. But then the decks that are topping are actually just not decks that play Dune cards typically. Other than Unchained, of course, they got Sharava and Yama, which is crazy. But like, I'm just looking at this, like if you look at this top 32 breakdown for the YCS Vancouver, it's like, okay, the top decks were Dragon Link purely. It's like, okay, so Dune didn't really affect the format that much. Now, of course, Dune did provide some support for these decks. Purely got Noir. I don't think Dragon Link got anything though. But yeah, typically it's like,
well, they got the Red Eyes. What is it, like the Red Eye Souls, whatever it is? It's not called Red Eye Souls. It's like Red Eyes Flare something dragon, but it's like basically a Magician's Souls, but for Red Eyes Dragon, so they can dump their the flare, and the flare is another target now besides just Red MD.
Yeah, that's fair.
But that's about it.
But that's what I mean, right? So I feel like depending on the ban list, that's what Age of Overlord is kind of dependent on, in my opinion. But again, I don't have enough information, so don't take my word on it. This is just what I've heard personally from like people on my locals who are a lot more attentive of this stuff.
Knowledgeable. Yeah, no, I agree. There's definitely formats or decks, I should say, that I'm more anticipant about. Like for instance, Kashtira. Before Darkwing Blast came out, I heard about Kashtira in the OCG, and I watched some videos, and I saw the gameplay, and I'm like, yo, this deck is locking out zones my opponent can't play. That's fucking cool. That's something that's never been done before. I'm with that. So when Darkwing Blast came out, I was playing the deck. I bought all the cards early, even when Fenrir and Unicorn were fucking super cheap, and then they eventually took their spike because everyone found out how good they were going to be. And I made sure that even when I played in Darkwing Blast format online, I was playing in post-Photon Hypernova format, where we got a Rise Heart, Theosis, and all the good cards, and to the point where I wasn't even playing Kashtira at locals anymore because I was so anticipant of it coming out online. So I was playing the online just to get ahead of it. So when Photon Hypernova came out, I was ready to go. But like those are the examples of when I look ahead of the format, because there's times where like let's just say Rescue Ace comes out and I'm like, yo, what the fuck does this deck do? Like, what? I've never heard about this. Pirelli, like what is? There's a bunch of cats. They're not doing shit. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't really know what's going on. But as far as Age of Overlord, there are 3 main archetypes that are coming out. You said 2 of them. One is Horus and the Diabell Star, and then the last one is Snake Eyes. I don't know if you remember in Dune that there's a card called like
you got that one spell card, right?
Something. Yeah, it's a 1 spell card, and it's a tech card now that puts cards into the back row. And so it's Snake Eyes is kind of similar to almost like a Crystal Beast, where like they play by specialing and placing their cards from the front to the back row, and so on and so forth. Like you just keep like to dodge things type deal. So it's kind of cool. That's why that spell card that came out was like that generically, to put other monsters in the back row, so that way you can utilize that. Diabell Star, you said, is like a 1.5 card combo, because I think it does require a discard if I'm remembering correctly, but it can special itself, and then when it's anything is like sent to the graveyard or some shit like that, you can special it back from the graveyard on your opponent's turn, and then like the spells and traps that they search out are pretty cool. And then there is also the Horus archetype, which you had mentioned, and that's basically just like rank 8 support, kind of like how Kashtira was rank 7, just dot deck.
Yeah.
Horus basically going to be rank 8 dot deck. And it's surprising because I think personally Horus might be the best one out of the set. I think that rank 8 toolbox is so
wide.
Yeah, exactly. That it's just no way it can't be good. There's just no way you can't make an extra deck strong enough to be able to compete in today's meta with the rank 8s. Like there's just no way.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think again, with these kind of cards and with this kind of anticipation, people tend maybe not to think always long term. I feel like the horror stuff, again, like you said, it's out the gate. It might be the strongest, right? Because we have such a wide variety of rank 8 support cards.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like Snake Eyes, I don't know too much about. I know Diabellstar a little bit. Like out of these 3 archetypes, I would say I know Diabellstar the most. And I feel like, again, it's just one of those things where it's like we don't get enough cards. It's a 1-card combo. It's cool, but I feel like maybe if not out the gate, it's the best. It will eventually be the best over time once it gets more cards, more support, etc., etc. Yeah, I think it's a cool set. I just feel like not enough, at least in my locals in my area, not enough people are talking about it. So to me, it feels a little underwhelming. But again, I feel like everyone has their own opinion. If the decks are cool, I haven't seen the OCG. Have you seen the OCG at all? Do you know if the OCG these are meta there?
I haven't looked ahead to the OCG for the Snake Eyes or the Diabellstar, but I have looked ahead for the Horus, and that's why I'm kind of like I'm super stuck on the fact that like Horus is going to be strong. If it's not the best, then maybe Diabellstar someone breaks it and it becomes better in the TCG, because decks always get adapted and changed when they get imported into the TCG. They're not always played the same exact way that they are in the OCG, so maybe someone will break it over here, but that horror shit is pretty strong. Like, there's a reason why people are buying out cards for no good reason for the TCG side, just in anticipation for this archetype.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's a fair argument. I was looking quickly into the OCG metagame, and maybe it's just me, but I see a lot of like Pearly and stuff still atop
Yeah, there's
the
a lot
meta
of Pearly
over
still
there.
around, but you got to also understand that OCG plays by different rules than the TCG.
Of course,
only
of
due to
course.
the fact that they still have Max C. Like, everything has to play around the 9 cards that you have to put in every deck. The 2 called by, the Ash, the fucking Cross House, the Max Cs. Like, that's all standard in almost every fucking deck in the OCG. So like, you can only the decks that do well are the decks that don't special that much. So you can do something like Rescue Ace special 2 or 3 times, set 4 cards, set a 5th one from your hand and be good.
Yeah, Rescue Ace set 4 is crazy, man, and they do
Yeah,
that.
it is.
And
It is strong.
It's so crazy, and it doesn't even play.
It's not.
Yeah, sorry, I was gonna say it doesn't even play into anti-spell and stuff, man, because they're all quick plays.
Yeah,
Like the spells,
and they're like how Labyrinth allows you to just play them while you can play 1 per turn while it was set. You know what I'm saying? So like that field spell is pretty crazy. It's basically a pot of avarice too, from the banished or graveyard, which is good because a lot of the monsters special to summon themselves by banishing a lot of the names and shit like that. So that makes more sense. But it's a very well-rounded deck. It's just not that strong right now because the cards that you're setting aren't that strong. It's only like a negate, a pop, and like a search and a special. But like it's not like too crazy. But if they get something that's like out of this world, that they're like powerful, that they get to set every turn and recycle every single turn, I think that deck is formidable. Like it's missing 1 or 2 cards, but that deck is almost there.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
I agree. I know that deck. I've played against it a fair amount, and I'm like, dang, like this deck, it feels so Salamangreedy, right? It feels very mid-range, it's not super powerful in what it does, but it just keeps doing it. And you're like, bro,
it's like Labyrinth nitty-grittiness.
Yeah, it's just like, bro, stop. Please, I broke your board. Stop making
it. You're
setting
the same fucking. You set because they only play 1 of each trap. And spell, you know what I'm saying? So they're setting the same one. So it's like, dog, you've activated the same fucking card 4 times. Can you please set a different one?
Yeah.
Where's my duster at?
Yeah, I know, bro. Trust. I feel you.
So do you consider yourself like you would say a competitive player? Or are you more like a pretty casual player?
No, so it's funny. It's hard to answer that. So I feel like I was a much more competitive player a few years ago, pre-COVID. I feel like I've always been a collector at heart. I love collecting, and I think when COVID hit, it gave me a lot of time to actually sit down and collect and do the kind of things that I like. Ever since I came back, I would still consider myself competitive. I do want to win. I do want to do well. But what I've built a lot of my, I guess, I don't want to say career, but what I've built a lot of my channel on is making rogue decks competitive. I feel like anyone can go play Cash, anyone can go play Unchained, I don't want to say anyone. Of course, there's definitely a level of skill that you need to have.
There's a floor, but there's also a high ceiling.
Yeah. They're cookie cutter, right? Like a lot of the time, there are a lot of cookie cutter things. I could take a look at Jesse's build and just build Jesse's deck and be competitive with it. Even if I'm not as good as Jesse, I could probably go to a locals and top a locals with it. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna say if you just copy Jesse's profile, you're gonna go win a YCS. That's where the skill level comes in, right?
Yeah,
But
correct.
when it comes to just building decks, you know, there's a lot of cookie cutter decks. And so what I really wanted to focus my channel on is taking these rogue decks that you might want to see and might want to play, and then making them as competitive as possible. And so I guess with doing that, I don't want to say I've become less competitive. I'm definitely just as competitive, but it's become a lot of, I really want to benefit a lot of the people in the game who are not just trying to play what everyone else plays.
I agree. There is a I would say like a 70-30 split between non-competitive and competitive. Because to me, in my eyes, competitive, quote unquote, the definition to me, because everyone's definition is different, would be caring deeply about improving yourself as a player in the highest tiered ability that you can, like such as going to YCS's Nats, Worlds, regionals, shit like that. That's competitive to me. Casual to me is not caring about whether you improve as a player. You're just playing to have fun. Because there's sometimes some people just want to play their decks, and they've been activating Eldritch cards since Eldritch came out. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They just want to flip their skill drain and their TC Boo and extend their hand. You know what I'm saying? They don't care about winning. It's just playing their deck that they like. Yeah. But some people, winning is what's fun. You know, so they'll play what the best deck is, just because winning or getting that result topping is what's they're looking for out of the game.
Yeah, and I think your definition is actually a really good one. I think learning and trying to get better definitely defines competitiveness. But I will say that there's a lot of rogue in this game, right? I will say, so like for me, my tops, I've had a few tops in my since I started playing. So I started playing in 2015. When Dimension of Chaos came out, or was it Clash of Rebellion? It was either Clash of Rebellion. I think it was Clash of Rebellion. That one came out before Dimension of Chaos. Yeah, so I started playing that format, I think just before Cosmo and stuff came out, or I think the first few Cosmo cards came out
in Core. Yeah,
it was Core, right? It was Core. Yeah, I'm not tripping that. Yeah, I'm not tripping that. I thought it was Core. Anyway, so I was playing in that format. So yeah, that's when I first started, and at the time when I first started, I made friends with a few people who were actually like ultra competitive. So at that time, I actually learned really quickly how to be a competitive player and have that mindset and do well. So I remember I topped with Pepe. I topped with people forget Pepe, bro. That deck is the most broken deck.
No, that was an old format. Yeah, no, I agree. You're showing your age there, guy.
Yeah, for real. I topped with Pepe. I topped with ABC. People forget ABC was one of the best decks for a while. One of my favorite formats to this day of all time is Invasion Vengeance format, where it was ABC, Paleo Frog, and Metal Foes. That was the meta, and that was one of my favorite metas of all time. But yeah, that one I was playing ABC. I got my top with ABC. I got my top with Dino when Dino came out, and that was in Zoo format because I refused to play Zoo. I was like, man, I want to top, but I don't want to play Zoo.
So why not Misk?
Yeah, well, you had 3 Misk at the time, and the thing is, their thing was you have to Trident pop in the battle phase, right? Because Misk is going to protect you in the main phase, but you're always going to have Conductor in your main phase, book it face down. Yep. So yeah, I got another top with Dino, and then I don't think I topped with anything since Sword Soul, and then Sword Soul came out, and then I topped with Sword Soul again. So yeah, I've had a few tops in my career, and I would say that when I did top, they were fairly meta decks. I think the only top that I would consider that wasn't a meta quote unquote deck was Dino. I guess Dino was
Dinos.
It was considered competitive, but it definitely
Dinos has his moments though. There's times where that shit can go 9-0 at a fucking regional.
Right.
Team Sam at an extravaganza.
Yeah, like that deck, and to this day, it's one of my favorite decks of all time. I would say ABC and Dino are probably my 2 favorite decks of all time. But yeah, if you look at my track record, like my track record says when I play meta decks, I top, and that for me makes me feel like, you know what, when I want to be competitive, when I want to go win a regional or win a YCS, I've never won it. Sorry, I should say I've never won a regional. I've never won a YCS. But when I want to go top, go to get my top 8 or whatever, I can do that. I'm capable of that. For me, because of all that experience that I have, I feel like if I ever wanted to get back, I'm talking for me personally, right? But I feel like a lot of people here can relate as well, right? Where it's like, if you really think that you can play a deck and go top an event, then I think you can, and you probably should be confident in yourself that you can as well. But for me personally, because I've done that and because I have that confidence in myself, I tend not to play the meta decks anymore because it's me trying to challenge myself, and I'm like, you know what? Let me go to a regional and win with Cyber Dragon, right? And you
Let's
know,
go, Cyber Dragon!
yeah,
Hail
I'm a big
Cyber!
Cyber Dragon fan. I actually just put
I love
together a
Cyber
Cyber
Dragons.
Dragon deck profile, bro. I love that deck. I'm a big GX guy myself.
We can go Cyber Dragon all day, my friend. I can go back and forth with you. Deck profile strategies, deck choices,
Theory, yeah,
all that
it's
shit. So
crazy.
theory, I can go Cyber Dragon. I actually got my first placement at a my very first regional I went to. I got 32nd place out of top 32, and it was with Cyber Dragon.
Yo, Orcus Sidra though.
That was strong. Oh my god, I didn't get into Orcus Sidra until after. As soon as I put Orcus Sidra together, the tournament I was gonna bring it to, the ban list was dropped beforehand, and I couldn't. I never played it. I want Harp to come back just so I could try it once. But
Yeah.
that's just me. You know what I'm saying?
Yo,
But,
you know
yeah,
what's
yeah,
funny is I love that deck. Orcus is. I remember that format. I loved Orcus Sidra. I played that deck to no end. But the thing is, up here in Canada, where I am, we actually don't get as much regionals or as many. Recently, we have been, but at that time, we weren't getting regionals often. We weren't getting YCS often, so we didn't get a chance to play often. So I guess I don't want to say a regret, but one of the things that I look back on and I get sad about all the time is I never got the chance to actually play at a regional with Orcus Sidra, because I feel like that was a format where I could have been really successful, but I just never got the chance to, which is unfortunate.
yeah.
But
I agree. We could have been powerhouses, but dog, they didn't want us to be regional topping Sidra Orcus players.
Yo, side note. I don't wanna get into this topic, but just quick side note. I want to say this because I feel like a lot of people will agree with me. One thing that I genuinely dislike about the game of Yu-Gi-Oh, not the game, but the way it's run, is I hate that regionals are organized by stores and OTSs,
By vendors.
not by Konami. I think Pokemon.
Yes.
I'm not huge into Pokemon, but Pokemon VGC, the Pokemon company does it right, and I think it makes the event so much better because, and it makes them a lot more frequent. Because for me, someone living in Canada, but even like YCS Vancouver, that happened. Like Vancouver, I remember Tom Box from MSTTV. That guy was fighting for a regionals for years to even get a regional, right?
Yep.
And it never happened because the OTS stores over there couldn't afford it. These are big investments for them. And I think that's such a mistake because they're losing so much opportunity to build their player base wider within Canada. America, I feel like you guys are a little bit better because you guys have so many. But in Canada, it's not as big.
We're blessed. Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely. It's good. But it just, I feel like there's a lot of opportunity missed because Konami's choosing to be like, if you guys want to host a regional, then go buy out a place, go rent out a venue, and go run it yourselves. And then a lot of people may lose money. I know my local store has been trying to organize a regional for years, but they're like, we're just going to lose money to do it. So why would they do that, right? As an OTS store.
No, I agree.
Why would you want to lose money to host a tournament?
I definitely agree with that. I mean, I don't, like you said, I don't want to like brush up too much on that, but like once I found out that vendors are in charge of the regionals, not Konami themselves, that Konami's just like the brand attached to it, I was like, wow, that's kind of a little like weird because like, I mean, we, like I said, in the States have a little bit different just because there are a lot of powerhouse OTSs that hold tournaments like that. So shout outs to like Core TCG, shout outs to Gamers Choice. Gamers Choice hosts a lot on the East Coast alone. So like we are definitely blessed to have like a bunch of, or at least a handful of like really big ones. But yeah, it is different to see the other side of that coin where towns or areas that don't have very big OTSs or can't afford to, rent out a venue at like the Holiday Inn or any of these big convention centers just to put on a card tournament that they might lose money from because people are going to be illegally selling cars on the floor or maybe try to sneak their way in, yada yada. People don't buy, like you might be buying too much product but not selling enough. You can just take the L's in many different ways doing it. So I always thought, I agree, although we're not going into it, that the Konami should be the ones actually hosting, actually buying out, and actually renting out and taking the money back for these events. You know what I'm saying? That's just my standpoint.
And again, I know I'm going on a tangent here, but I will say, like,
go off, King.
No, because this is actually like, well, the one thing about this game, or the way it's operated, is this is what peeves me, is that Konami recently, they introduced Time Wizard format, which I think is great, and I think it's great for the community. The problem is, you go to these regionals and you're just hoping that 4 to 8 players or whatever it is sign up. If Konami was hosting these events, they could organize it so much better, and it would bring so much more players to the
It'd be unanimous.
Exactly, right? Like, I'm going to a Konami event. I'm not going to if you think about it, regionals is just a big locals. It's just an OTS store hosting a 500 man or 200, 400 man, whatever locals. And I just feel like it's tough for the OTS store to also run all these side events. But if you have Konami running it themselves, right, like Pokemon International, and Pokemon does this really well. And I keep going to them because I feel like they actually do it the best of all the TCGs. They host their VGC and their TCGs in the same regional.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so because Pokemon hosts it, they're able to dedicate staff for the VGC and they're able to dedicate staff to the TCG. They have their stream for the TCG. They have their stream for the VGC. Could you imagine Konami having a stream for the TCG and then having a stream for Time Wizard, right?
Yeah,
it'd be so much better. I don't know. Again, it's just a tangent. I just feel like there's so much opportunity that Konami is like hoping that vendors will be able to do on their own, but I feel like they just don't have the manpower.
Yeah, I think they're putting it too much in the hands of these OTSs and not enough in their own. Like, they're not taking the accountability for it themselves. And that's where I'm like, okay, like, this is a little bit weird for me. Like, I don't know why Gamer's Choice needs to be hosting 8 of these when if Konami were to go rent out these facilities and then they hired the staff, they know how big the venue is. Obviously, if you're renting out a 500 or 1,000 person venue, you're going to have X amount of judges. All right, we're going to go to this little OTS store that's got 200 person seating. So you know that they're going to have about 10 to 15 judges. You know what I'm saying? Like, they can organize it and it'll be synonymous with all the events around instead of just being, all right, let's run a little bit differently over here. We're going to have side events over here, but only one. This one's going to do a different side event than what you're used to. Some might just do a 4-man tournament. This one's going to do Edison. You know what I'm saying? You never really know what you're even walking into. I even have friends who play strictly Edison going to regionals, just hoping that there's an Edison side event. You know what I'm saying? Not knowing if there's going to be one or not because they don't know who's going to host it.
Exactly. And the thing with side events with Time Wizard as well is I know so I went to a regional, I think last month. And I was looking at the side events and they were hosting a Time Wizard side event. And I'm like, hey, I went to one of the judges. I'm like, is this Edison or is it Go? And they literally looked at me and they were like, whatever 8 people sign up to play for. So if we have 8 players wanting to play, they literally said that to my face. They're like, if we have 8 players,
it's whatever you want it to be, dog. What you want it to be?
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
He's like, yo, if there's 8 GOAT players, then it'll be GOAT. If it's 8 Edison players, then it'll be Edison. And I'm like, okay, but what if it's a mix? They're like, okay, well, whoever gets the 8 first. And I'm like, that's such a bad way to run it.
That's like a bogus way of doing it, dog. Yeah, 100%. Like, bro, that's bogus.
Bro, I brought my Edison deck. Like, I didn't do this, but let's just say I'm someone who's doing this. I bring my Edison deck, like you said. I'm hoping for an Edison side event, and there's like 3 Time Wizard events, but they're all GOAT because that day everyone happened to want to play GOAT, and I just came in with Edison, and I can't do anything with my deck.
Yeah, and I just drove 3 hours away. I'm hanging out at a regional all day for 7 hours, and I'm not even playing the Yu-Gi-Oh that I want to play.
Exactly. So I feel like, again, it could all be solved if Konami just wants to host their events, but hopefully we'll get there one day.
This definitely does lead to our next topic, just because as we were talking about OTS stores. I don't know if you heard, but a lot of the OTSs are choosing out of nowhere, let this be known, are choosing out of nowhere to withdraw themselves from selling and vending Yu-Gi-Oh now and also in the near future, which means almost permanently. And if I'm going to cite it back, this was House of Champs tweet. He had tweeted out, one of the most historic stores in the Yu-Gi-Oh scene, Strike Zone, is pulling away and back from the game. They reportedly are no longer buying singles and are working to offload any stock they have. If your alarm bells aren't ringing, they should be. This isn't a quote-unquote get with the times problem. This is bad. And I low-key agree with them. I feel as though like OTSs, I don't know if you've seen, we talked about it on a prior episode, but I'm pretty sure it was Ruxin who put up a episode not too long ago, and he was talking about how OTSs are just losing out on all these products, and it's like not even profitable, as we were even talking about even going to a regional. Shit, it's not even profitable for them to sell the cards that they're trying to have regionals for.
So
and then you know what I'm saying, for all this. So what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah. So I'm happy that we're bringing this up in today's episode, because this is something that I've kind of thought about for a while, and I watched Ruxin's video and I saw a lot of things, and forgive me if I'm like ignorant or because I've never run my own store yet, right? Free. But yeah. I do want to say this from my personal experience and from the store. I know a lot of local stores in my area. I'm very close with a lot of the owners, so I do get like a lot of the inside scoop from them, right? And I've been blessed in a sense where my community, I mean, just around where I live, there's 3 locals within 15 minutes from where I live, right? So I've gone to
we're in the same position.
exactly. So I've gone to multiple locals. I know a lot of the owners. We're friends. They give me the real like struggles of having the store. And one thing that I saw in Ruxin's video specifically that I was like, okay, what he's saying is not wrong, but it's also not the full truth. So yes, I agree with Ruxin and a lot of other people when it comes to the Legendary Duelist, the Soul Burner one. I think that set was a flop. There was no reason for Konami to print that set. Yes, they wanted to sell the volcanic stuff and the new Salaman stuff, but they could have done that easily in like a Battles of Legends set or whatever, because those typically do well,
Correct.
right? But where I think I disagreed was a lot of what Ruxin was basing his video off of was eBay sales and TCG Player, where those websites, a lot of them will take percentages off your sale. I personally, all three of the OTS stores in my area, who, by the way, by the grace of God, have been really successful, none of them sell on TCG Player or on eBay. Now, with us in Canada, you can't actually sell on TCG Player. You have to have an American address and whatnot. So TCG Player aside, but a lot of them don't really sell on eBay. They have their own websites. They sell on their own things. And I'll see like my local OTS store, they'll sell Soul Burner Structure Decks for like $70 a booster box Canadian. So that's about, I think $70 is about like 50 something USD. But then when I saw Ruxin's video and he's like, oh, on TCG Player, they're selling for $30 a box. I don't think if you are a successful business owner or you're someone who does business well, you shouldn't be selling at a loss. And again, I don't want to sound ignorant or anything, but at least from the store owners that I know, they're not really taking a loss. Now, their profit margins on sealed products are typically not huge, and they've been upfront with me. They really say that like, hey, our profits on sealed products are not the biggest. Where they make a lot of their profit is on singles. And so yeah, I agree. Maybe you don't have to buy 20 cases of Soul Burner, start like the booster box, right? I know there are some distribution like problems with that, because if you don't buy like X amount of cases, then on the next order they're gonna not give you it. They're not gonna allocate as many cases for you. So let's say you didn't buy Soul Burner and then you want to buy Age of Overlord. Well, they're like, well, you spent zero money with us for Soul Burner, so actually we're not going to give you that many Age of Overlord.
So yeah, you were only going to give you 2 cases instead of the 10.
Exactly, right?
You know
so I know there's
to
definitely
encourage you to get more.
Exactly. So I definitely know there is a lot of good things that come from, or sorry, not good things. There's a lot of problems that come from the distribution side of things, and I completely sympathize with that. But I don't know, from the videos and from not just Ruxin's video, but from a lot of people's perspectives as well, I'm like, I personally haven't seen that. I haven't seen people take huge losses because, you know, of these eBay fees or TCG Player fees and all these website fees, right? I don't know. That's just the way I see it. That's the way.
No, I can see your standpoint, and honestly, you do bring up some good arguments, because I also have a question. Do those OTSs that you go to, do they sell online? Do they even physically have like an online quote unquote store?
Yeah.
Or are they only a brick and mortar?
No, so they're of course they're brick and mortar, but they also have they're typically their own websites. So they don't go off of like TCG Player or anything. They'll sell on their own website. And for one in particular, I know websites like I've run my own website. I've had side businesses in the past, and websites typically cost you about $30 to $40 a month to run, right? Like you can get a website domain and all that stuff and pay maybe like $300 or $400 for the year, maybe $500, whatever, right? But in the long run, that's not a huge fee for owning or running a website, and it's been pretty successful.
It generates you money.
Exactly, right? So
yeah, exactly.
I feel like that's been pretty successful. And keep in mind, if they sell on their own website, there's no fee. There's no, hey, now, you know, if I sold this for $20, TCG Player is going to take 20% of my, or like 10% or 5% or whatever it is. This is my website. So I feel like when we're looking at these TCG Player stuff and these eBay sales, I feel like that's a lot of independent stores. Like that's like saying if me or you were to open a store, we don't have a brick and mortar. So where do we have to sell? We have to sell on TCG Player and eBay. And I feel like that's where the losses come in. But a lot of stores who have established clientele and have their own brick and mortar, like I feel like maybe the loss is not actually there as much. But at the same time, like people have said they're closing down, right?
It could also be talking about people who just like self-vend. Like I know people like shout outs to Pagan who go and maybe buy a couple cases just to like be like the local vendor. Like they'll go, or even Clip, shout outs to Clip, they'll go buy cases of like a product and then like try to help vend. Like not to say undercutting our OTS prices, but our OTSs, although we have a handful of them, they're all like pretty small with the exception of one, which is about like 25 minutes away. That's not that popular. But the venues are all small, so they don't buy a lot of product. There's like maybe a case or two. So you know what I'm saying, for about a consistent 25 to 30 person locals on a regular basis, they're not getting that much product. So like they were buying the product to help the players in the area get the product that they wanted. You know what I'm saying? Because we had such droughts. But even when they were doing it, it was at a loss because they had to not only go off the TCG quote unquote market price, but they also had to go through what was attainable at the store. And some of the stores try to mark up, some of them try to actually undercut and mark down. Well, so you kind of get a healthy balance of both.
And I'm looking at this now, and I know this. I know this for a fact. Like singles are always going to generate you more profit than sealed product is, right? At least for new stuff. For older stuff, no. But for new stuff, singles are always going to generate you more money or more revenue, right? So I'm on TCG Player real quick. I'm just taking a quick look. And a Soul Burner or Soul Burning Volcano booster box on TCG Player is about $31 USD. If you look at the actual set, I think it's actually more worth it to just open up the case and just sell the singles. Because a Salamander of Fire, which of course you're not guaranteed per box, but a Salamander of Fire alone is $17, right? Which is more than half the return on a single booster box. And there's a good chunk of cards here that are in the $5, $6, $7 range.
So you get more than a place that you're kind of sitting pretty.
I feel like you'd make more money just opening the set, and then of course if you pull the Ghost Rare, that's another $60 card, right? That's worth 2 booster boxes. So just the way I see it is like, I don't know, if you're really negging on these sealed boxes, just I guess I don't know. Maybe this is just a very simple-minded solution, but just open.
But it also comes, I think we might both, because I do agree with you. Don't get me wrong. I do wholeheartedly agree with the statements you kind of came out with, because you definitely have supported it enough to be like, he does have a point. But maybe we're both looking at it from the inside out, and like we're all assuming that these locals or these OTSs have the clientele or the business to just buy boxes and sell it, and that they don't need something like online sales to help cover that overhead that they might have. You know what I'm saying? So like maybe they do have someone who'll come and buy a box or two in person, but then they're sitting with 9 or so boxes still on the shelves. They know that they're only getting about 4 or 5 people per locals. It's not a lot, and they got to move that product. Maybe just any sort of money is better than it just sitting there hoping that someday someone might get it. Because it's kind of like, I kind of compare it to stocks. I don't know if you're a stocks guy, but a trick of the trade that they teach you is your money's only gone if you sell. So let's say I buy a stock at $1 and tomorrow it drops down to 50 cents. I only lost money if I sell out at 50 cents. I could wait for it to rise back up. It might go back to like maybe 80 cents and I might take a little bit of a hit. It might go back up to $1. I might want to jump out, just take, what I put in. That shit might jump up to $1.50 and now I'm making profit just because I held on to it. You know what I'm saying? Because it's only gone when you liquidate it.
And I would say for Yu-Gi-Oh, that's a big thing that happens I think that's a great, I don't know if you want to call it an analogy, but a great thing observation. Because I think with Yu-Gi-Oh's always been one of those games where there's no rotation, right? So cards and decks are going to become relevant at random points. So if for any reason, okay, like I'll give you a great example. I think the Legendary Duelist, the Legends from the Deep or whatever it's called, the one with the Mako Tsunami and the Marinsa stuff.
Yep.
Okay, I remember that
Duels
set.
From the Deep.
Yeah, Duels from the Deep. I remember that set was a flop. Everyone was like, "This sucks," right? Like the only card you can pull is Droplet, and that's it. The rest of the set sucks. Yeah, but
the Ghost was sucks.
Okay, but now Marinsys is actually a very relevant deck, and people actually want, at least in my area, I've seen people want to find that set just because they want the Marinsys stuff, and pretty much all the Marinsys stuff minus 2 cards were reprinted in that set, right? The Shark stuff is randomly pretty fun. But again, that's not going to make the value of the set. I'm not trying to say that's going to make the value, but with Yu-Gi-Oh, again, things are always going to change, right? So you never know. Volcanic might randomly become a very meta competitive deck one day, and people want the Volcanic cards. And guess what? The only place to find the Volcanic cards is this set, right? So I don't know. I feel like there are a lot of ways around it. I do agree with your point though, where not every OTS store has established that clientele yet. They haven't established, their business yet, and that obviously is something that is a little bit tough. But I feel like people have just definitely put this out like blown this out of proportion, because I feel like people are talking about how this is going to be horrible for the game. It's going to ruin the game. Yu-Gi-Oh is going to die. I do not think Yu-Gi-Oh is going to die because of one or two bad sets. Now, where I will agree is I think Konami's releasing way too many products. I feel like there is way too many products.
Yes. I talked about that on a past episode. I said that they're releasing too many cards and too many sets. What they need to do is reduce the amount of cards in the set, because most of them are fucking trash anyway. Most of them are just common bulk we throw away. And then reduce how many times you're dropping a set a year. Because if you slow it down that way, now there's more people who have more time or enough time to save up money to go get these products that they might want. You know what I'm saying? That like it gives a metas enough time to kind of get settled in. People can figure them out, whether it's fun or not. The ban list can come in, shake some shit up. But like if you slow the game down that way and print less cards, you'll have more people being able to afford the cards that are out, and you'll be able to actually have hype for these sets. A lot of these cards are just overhyped anyway. You talked about it earlier. Look at Revolution Synchron. Look at Crimson Dragon. They were all supposed to be meta changing.
Yeah.
Look at fucking Spellbound. Look at fucking Ultimate Slayer. Bro, these are all quote unquote meta breaking cards, and like none of them are even seeing side deck play.
Yeah.
And you're telling me that that's the best card in a set? Like, come on. Like, you can print less cards, put cards like that, maybe hold on to the top 3 or 4 cards in each set. Make one set that has like 50 different cards, and it's got like 45 of them bitches is fucking usable. And the other 5 are like, all right, we'll splash some shit for this guy this set.
So in
my opinion.
No, I completely agree. I think Konami should do 2 things. They always do 4 main booster sets a year. I think they should continue with that. 4 main booster sets a year, I think is good. I think they should have 4 side sets a year as well. So a total of 8 sets a year. 4 main booster sets, 4 side sets. Now, I really like stuff like Battles of Legend. I think that's a pretty good set. But when it comes to these legendary duelists, I feel like every single legendary duelist has failed. Like literally, there has not been a good one. Maybe you can.
A lot of them have, yes.
I feel like maybe you can argue Synchro Storm, but even Synchro Storm, I think, sucked outside of Baron, right?
Yeah, no. If you look at the product as a whole, it sucked. It was just Baron, and it's the same schematic with all of them. So yes, I agree.
So you can do, if you want to release these cards. Don't get me wrong. I think it's cool. Like, I mean, there's definitely people who want to play Volcanic, right, and are excited about Volcanic support. But you can definitely do just one side set with no reprints, because a lot of these sets have a lot of reprints. Like majority of Soul Burning Volcano is just all the Volcanic cards. Why don't you just say, bun the reprints? I'm going to drop a set with the new Salad cards, the new Volcanic cards, the new Marinsas cards, the new this cards, the new this cards, and here's a set. Like build it as a set. Because in this way, if I'm buying Duelist Nexus, right, Dune, I'm not buying Dune for reprints. I'm buying it for the new card. So why would I want to buy this set where the whole set is just Volcanic commons that I don't really want, right? And then if they want to do one reprint set, so they could do one BLMR, like a BL Battles of Legend set. They could do one set where it's kind of like a bunch of new stuff. They could do one reprint set for the year, and then a 4th set that they can figure out what they want to do with that 4th set. But it just, or one of those deck building sets. You know those deck building sets? Maybe one of those.
Yeah.
I feel like that'd be perfect. That's 8 total sets for the year, and I'm not just buying stuff to buy stuff. Like, bro, this set, man, I'm looking at it. It sucks. Like, there's no staples in it.
A lot of it does. A lot of it does, dog.
Bro, at least Tactical Masters. I don't know if you remember Tactical Masters. That one had Torrential Tribute rare, Solemn Strike, I believe, rare, Droll rare, Anti-Spell rare. Like, the whole set was meta cards rares. Okay, if you're going to do a reprint set, that's what I want to see. That's how you should do it. That's how you should do a reprint set, bro. I don't need 30 commons or 30 copies of Volcanic Eruption. Like, what is that card going to do for you? You don't even play that in Volcanic. Like, you know
big bags.
You know what I mean? Like, give me.
They just be reprinting cards just to reprint cards.
Right? Where's Rekindling? Why was Rekindling reprinted in here? Like, that's a card that randomly works, I think, really well with Battling Boxer, or the Flame Vel counter works with Battling Boxer, right? Where like a lot of these cards, there's definitely a lot of support that could have just or reprints that could have been in here, and they just didn't. I don't know. I feel like this is a recent trend though. I don't think this has like been going on for too long. I feel like it's just been the last, I think, few years. because I remember COVID, there was a lot of short prints in COVID, and I feel like maybe they're trying to make up for it. But my theory is this. My theory is that eventually, maybe not yet, but my theory is that they're putting out a ton of products all at once because they want to catch up to the OCG. And once we catch up with the OCG, they can make one ban list and have everything the same across both formats.
You think they're trying to sync it up?
Yeah, and I think that would be a great idea. I think that would be great for the game because
that's
what Master.
I'm pondering that.
That's what Master Duel basically is, right? It's a OCG and TCG put into one mixed ban list, and that's Master Duel. And I think it's brought in so many players into the game.
So I don't mean to side cut. Asking just for clarification, are you for or against a Worlds ban list? Like as far as like how Worlds does it, where it's
I think Worlds is
the lowest part of each.
Oh no, I think Worlds ban list is the worst ban list in the world. I do not agree with when you tell me this deck won Worlds, I don't care.
Whoa! You think that the Worlds ban list is the worst ban list in the world, but you're trying to sync up the TCG and the TCG?
No, I'm not saying that, so I'm saying the Worlds ban list is the worst because it doesn't make sense. You just take random cards from like not random, but they take cards from the OCG.
Well, they take all the imports are gone, and then they take the lowest ban on each card from each section. So let's say Fenrir is at 3 in the OC, at TCG, but at 1 in the OCG. So for the Worlds list, Fenrir is at 1. Let's say that there's an import in TCG that there's not in the OCG, like an exclusive. That card is banned. Like
I don't like
Gate Guardian. Gate Guardian support was banned.
Yeah, so I don't like that.
Shit like that.
And the reason, and again, I don't like that. And the reason why I think they should sync up the TCG and the OCG. No, I'm not saying that. Like the ban list would have to be the same eventually, but they could fix the ban list, right? The reason I'm saying I don't like the Worlds format is because, bro, Blue Eyes won Worlds. Like, was Blue Eyes ever meta? And no diss to any Blue Eyes players, but Blue Eyes was never meta in the OCG. It was never meta in the TCG. But it won a world championship. Why? Because randomly that one world event.
Because everything else got hit. Yeah, everything else was hit. So that was like the last deck standing.
I think that format, Zoo was just coming out in the TCG, and it just got hit in the OCG. So you couldn't play Zoo, and that was the meta, right? That was the meta that just ended in the OCG and just started in the TCG. You couldn't play the format.
But wouldn't you argue that this is like that is what you're quote unquote going for is like a joined meta or a joined ban list, because the Worlds list is a literal smashing of the both ban lists together. It's a joining of the two ban lists. So if they think they're working to this, wouldn't that be the best schematic on how to go about doing it?
It maybe, but they have to align it throughout the entire season, because if let's say I qualify for Worlds, like, and again, I hate to keep bringing up like other games and whatnot, but like I think Pokemon does this really well. Like,
no, it's a good comparison though. Yeah,
right.
It's good comparison.
Pokemon does this really well, where there's just one format. Right? Things are legal and things are not legal. It doesn't matter where you are, there's one format. And then when it comes to Worlds, you can really understand what the best deck in the game is at this time, or who the best player is at this time. We were talking about Crystal Blanc, we were talking about Jesse Coyne. Jesse Coyne is an amazing player. I think he's the best player in the world right now. He's made it to Worlds several times, but he's never done well in Worlds. Why? Like, do you see what I'm trying to say? Like,
yeah.
It doesn't make sense that the best player in the world, and who I consider to be the best player in the world, or at least a top 3, top 5 player in the world, can't top 3, top 5 at a Worlds, because it just doesn't make sense. He's coming from a format and then going into something brand new. And even for OCG players, they have a format that they're used to, and then they're coming into something that doesn't make sense. But if you line it up, then you can practice throughout the season. Then you can create text throughout the season. Then you can innovate, right?
I agree.
But then you have a format where someone... what did he set? He set that level 1 Blue Eyes Stone of Ancients or whatever, and passed his turn.
Yeah.
And I sat there. I'm like, this is your world.
Yeah, Eric sucks.
Your Worlds final. Your Worlds finals is your opponent setting a fucking level 1 Stone of the Ancients and passing turn. Like, that's not enjoyable. And I think part of it is also the watchability of the game, right? Like, me and you are both players, but imagine someone who's just starting to get into Yu-Gi-Oh. They watch the Worlds stream and they're like, what am I watching? I've never seen this at locals. I've never seen anyone talk about this. What is this? Right?
Yeah, what the fuck is this? Is this 2006 again?
And then they click off. And I'm like, it's just not. I think as a whole, it's not great for the game. I think it'd be good for the game. Sorry, what I was trying to say is I think it'd be good for the game if it was consistent throughout the whole season. The OCG and the TCG ban lists were one, and it was always the same ban list. But
I've always accommodated for that, but we do have to acknowledge that they get shit before us. So, like, maybe if your theory of they're trying to catch one up to the other is indeed true, then maybe I can see them going for that. But until that standpoint, they do get shit a hell of a lot earlier, and I don't think it's fair for us to get it already pre-banned because the OCG abused it when the OCG and the TCG don't play the same way. So I do agree with you on certain points.
That's not even a point I thought of, but that's a great point, bro. Like, I remember there was like the Tyrant Neptune got banned before his shit came out in the TCG because in the OCG it was used for an FTK, right?
Correct.
And I'm like, okay, listen, don't get me wrong. I think that was a good hit. I don't want to get FTK, but at the same time, it's like,
yeah, don't get me wrong. We're not advocating for FTKs out here.
I'm not trying to get. I'm not advocating for an FTK. What I'm saying is like, it just doesn't make sense because we'll never get to experience that, right? I'm pretty sure. I don't know the exact timeline, but I'm pretty sure that the TCG and the OCG had products released until at the same time up until like the 5Ds era. I think it was.
Yeah. And then they started going ahead of time.
Exactly.
They started getting more sets.
Exactly.
faster.
Exactly. So they've done it before, right? I don't see.
Yeah, we're only about 6 months behind, so it's not even like we're like that crazy.
What are we? We're basically like a set behind.
It's like
right?
2 core sets. Yeah, I would say like I think like a set and a half. I think it's a core set and like 2 side sets behind from whatever the OCG has.
Yeah, so I think they can, if they really want to, they can feasibly do it, and they can even make an announcement. And this is the thing that I think Konami sucks at, is just communicating with their players. They can make an announcement if they wanted to do something like that and just say, hey guys, listen, for the next year, we're gonna be giving you guys a lot. And the reason for that is because we want to catch up and we want to make Yu-Gi-Oh! One game. We don't want 2 different games. We want one game. And I'm 100% certain, although there would be players who probably would have some other opinions, but I'm certain as a whole, people would be like, you know what? At least they're being transparent and honest and telling us what the game plan is.
Yeah, no. I mean, transparency, I think personally, in any relationship, whether it be buyer consumer, friendships, even like our relationships, like communication is very, very key. Like, you need to be transparent. Hey guys, this is what's going on. What we do about it, we're planning. You know, Konami can do what they want with it, but like, yo, this is the game plan.
Just
like,
tell
us what it is.
Yeah, just tell us.
Lead.
Yeah, bro.
Take some fucking accountability.
Bro, it's your company. Do whatever you want. By no means am I telling you what to do, but just tell me what you're doing, bro. Let me know what you're doing.
Yeah, tell us when the fucking ban list is, Konami. God damn it.
Bro, even something as simple, no, I think that's a great point, because even something as simple as that is just them telling us, hey guys, what are we in? We're in September? Okay, September 22nd, we're dropping a ban list. Get ready, right? We would be like, oh my god,
I think that would be more. Yeah, I'd agree with that way more. I'd be way more hyped.
Yo, do you play video games?
I wouldn't be able to sleep the night before.
Do you play video games at all, like League of Legends and stuff?
I play a little bit of Fortnite. Don't clown me in the chat, guys.
No.
I play a game called For Honor, but like I don't play like strategy games a lot.
Okay,
not really.
The reason I
Yu-Gi-Oh is my strategy game.
Yeah, that's fair. Honestly, it's the best strategy game. But anyways, like stuff like League of Legends and whatnot, and I know other video games do this as well, where it's like they just tell you, hey, every 2 weeks, and obviously this is not feasible in Yu-Gi-Oh every 2 weeks, but for the video games, it's like every 2 weeks we're gonna announce these buffs and these nerfs, and we're gonna have a new meta game, and we're gonna have this and we're gonna have that. And I'm like, I'm not saying that Konami should do a ban list every 2 weeks, but what I'm saying is they straight up tell you, hey guys, in a month the meta is not gonna be the meta it is now. And I feel like it gives people something to look forward to, because there's a lot of people who don't like certain formats, and at least they can just be like, hey, in a month it's over. In a month I get my new ban list.
I don't gotta play for 93 days. I can do that instead of, oh well, I'm just not gonna play and then I forget about the game because I'm waiting on a ban list and it never comes, and now I'm doing something else, and then it's like been a year and a half and I'm like, oh shit, what about Yu-Gi-Oh? And I come back and the whole fucking shit's different. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
I do agree with you. You do have strong points.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just something that because I have a lot of competitive friends and I have a lot of casual friends, and I see both sides of, like, I always see both of their opinions. And the thing that I always see that's the same thing across every single player base, whether you're casual or competitive, is if they just understood what's happening in the game or what they plan on doing, then the game would just be so much more fun and so much more enjoyable for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
it's crazy. It's crazy how much we both, align with some of our viewpoints, and I really do. I've really enjoyed this conversation and like picking your brain apart and just kind of like seeing where your standpoint is. Because I forgot you are also a Canadian player, so like I'm an American player, and I do forget that fence is there, and there are other things on the other side of it that we may not know about. So like I didn't know. I do forget that a lot of Canadian players can't use TCG Player. So like I agree with some of those OTSs falling out with, going back to our original point. But I agree with some of those OTSs missing out on some of those deals online because they don't have TCG Player or access to websites like that to sell online. But you did bring up very good points where they don't have to sell online for the neg. You should know what you're buying. You should know what your area is allocating for. So like there are ways to mitigate that. But I do feel though it is scary. I'll end on this, that a lot of these OTSs are choosing just to not sell or vend Yu-Gi-Oh, because it starts there, and then eventually we're gonna have OTSs not having Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments. OTSs not being able to have Yu-Gi-Oh apparel, Yu-Gi-Oh this, Yu-Gi-Oh that. Like now they're taking away all the Yu-Gi-Oh stuff because it's just not a profitable TCG. Period.
So I think
not even marketable.
Yeah. So one last thing I want to say, just to hop on your point, I really like that you said apparel as well. I feel like Yu-Gi-Oh is the one game that just does nothing other than the card game. Pokemon is always doing clothes and hats and this and that, and I've seen Digimon get into it now as well, and I'm like. And One Piece, of course, One Piece is a huge anime, right? So One Piece is a little bit different. But, I feel like why has Konami not explored all these other different venues of making money? And I feel like it would help because the stores would make money. Like if Konami dropped, like you ever see those Hypeland t-shirts that everyone wants to buy? It's like if Konami just hired a designer and made their own proper looking clothes, and then vendors could sell it, and then that's just profitable, right? Like there's no TCG Player market for a sweater. Konami's gonna be like, this is the MSRP, this is what we're gonna sell it for. So people are not gonna go on TCG Player and be like, well, I'm actually gonna sell my sweater for this much. It's like you can't, you literally can't. So there's that. And I think the other thing that I want to say, and this is just I guess the last thing I want to say, just I guess to anyone watching this, bro, support your local OTS stores, man. I see it way too often where someone will be like, I'm just gonna order off TCG Player, but they have a local store 10 minutes away from them. Like,
if the store has it, always. I agree. Always advocate for going to the OTS store. They're the ones who really stick their neck out for all of us. They're like the dads of like, the community, because they're the ones assuming all of the responsibility and all the accountability for having none of the fun. You know what I'm saying? And having to struggle to make ends meet and keep the lights on and shit just for players like us to enjoy playing the card games that we like. So yeah, definitely go support your OTS stores, especially if they have a singles case. Go buy from the singles case. I don't care how overpriced it is, unless it's double the price, then you don't pay that. But if it's a markup, you just pay it because that's just the price you paid for the game. You know what I'm saying? It's the price of entry
and I'm gonna
keep these locals afloat.
Exactly. And I'm gonna be honest, like I have my OTS store and I'll look at their prices and I'll be like, man, this is like $2 above TCG Player. Okay, like, can I be honest with you? If I'm paying $2 more to keep my OTS alive and I can go to locals, I think it's worth it.
Do it every time.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you?
I'm not gonna go on TCG Player and then also have to wait. By the way, that's another thing. By the way, is the $2 that you're saving worth waiting 2 weeks for your card to come in?
Is it worth waiting? Is it worth the potential of, hey, it may not come, it might get lost in the mail, may come damaged, may not come at all. You know what I'm saying?
By the time it comes in, I don't want to play the deck. Or by the time it comes in, there's a ban list. By the time it's like, bro,
may come in damaged.
Just pay your
may come in with a different condition.
Pay your $2 extra, and then support your store, and then your store keeps running. And then I don't know. That's just the way I see it, man. I'm a big advocate of just supporting. The
economy needs the feed, so it definitely strings from a very, very strong knit community. You know what I'm saying? So, and we're big advocates for that. So once again, shout out to Unplugged Gaming, because they're definitely one of our local sponsors from one of the OTSs that are in our area. But we are starting to run out of life points here. We've been chit-chatting for quite some time. I've had this man on the phone for a bit. So just to start wrapping things up, because this is a very, very intricate conversation. I'm so thankful and glad that you were able to come out here and have. I've genuinely enjoyed this conversation. Bro, people can't see it, but I've been just slouching back, lounging. I've been like really listening to this man, like contemplating thoughts. I'm like, yo, this man's got some points here, or well, I don't really understand that. Like, it's been a really exhilarating conversation. So
Yeah.
thank you for coming on. Just before we close out, I just wanted to shout out some of the sponsors again. Make sure you go to Unplugged Gaming's Discord. They're in Manlius, New York, but go to their Discord server down in the description box below. You can go down there once again, and as we're saying, just go down there. All the all the TCG games that you would want to play are all down there. Go get entangled with one of them. Go find a new friend. Go get a new trade. Go get a new card that you need to support the OCSs. And if you show up in there, just say that the boys at Semi Limited sent you, and they'll definitely be sure to hook you up. And also, as you're down there in the description box, click on that Linktree link. You'll be led to our Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, all that stuff. I just started the YouTube back up. We're almost at 50 subscribers there. And when we get to 50th subscriber, we're definitely going to give a giveaway. You guys already know how we do it over here at Semi Limited. So be sure to follow all of them. We're at 100 Instagram followers, 50 Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube followers, or X, whatever the fuck you want to call that app. We're definitely going to be giving away for you guys, and we are so close to each. So make this the last fucking time I got to say it. All right. And then the last thing I want to mention before we start closing out is Brad's stream. Guys, if you are on Twitch on Saturdays, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you will make sure that you are going on to Brad's stream and interacting with him. He's out there. He's a great guy. I love watching him stream. I actually jump in every once in a while, so be sure to catch me in a couple of them, at least in the chat. He's very, very into his community, so be sure to go in there and check him out. If you guys want to, just make sure that whatever you guys want said on the podcast, you relay to him, because he will be telling me everything that happens on his stream, and it will go into podcast episodes for the Friday night wrap up. So before we close out, because we are starting to run out of life points, I once again just want to thank my guests, Spanko, Yugioh, for coming in and talking with us and being a part of our community and showing Syracuse that, there's other viewpoints out there and there's other things we should look out for and other ways of looking at things. So do you have any shout outs that you want to give out to any people out there?
Yeah, well, big shout out to you. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it. It was a very good conversation. I know it was a lot to get into, but I think it was very, very. I took personally a lot out of it. I feel like anyone listening would have taken a lot out of it as well. Gotten a bunch of different opinions and different viewpoints. I think that's really important, just to keep your mindset open and whatnot, and just learning different things. But yeah, thank you again, of course, for providing the platform and having people, have the opportunity to learn and gain different viewpoints. And I feel like people like you are going to make a big change in the game. So I appreciate you.
Appreciate those kind words. It's words like that and people like you who definitely make what I do worth it. I like the long hours. I work a regular 7 to 4 like everyone else. I get out, I do a lot of music. I'm doing a lot of stuff for my family, for Yugioh, whether it's playtesting, the local community. I'm having people over at the crib, what I'm saying? We're hosting the Kitchen Locals. I'm running the podcast. We do a lot out here, and it makes me all well worth it when I, make sure that I'm around people like you. And shout outs to also Yugioh and Akemi TCG. Most people don't know about it, but we were talking briefly in the little general chat in our Discord, which is also in that Linktree link down below. You guys can join that too. We were chatting in the Discord, and we were just talking about some of the people that he had listened to and who we fuck with in the community. And Akemi came up, and Yugioh came up, and those are two big names that are really wholehearted people that do a lot for their community, as well as for the Yu-Gi-Oh community as a whole. So shout outs to you as well. I think I'm definitely putting you up there, and I speak very, very highly of you from this day forward.
Thank you, brother.
Not that I did before.
It. No, of course. But yeah, I appreciate it, brother.
Yeah. So you have any final thoughts before we close out today's episode, my man?
I got nothing left to say.
You want to tell your girl you love her?
Yeah, of course. Irada, Hayute, I love you so much. You're the reason why I continue. Thank you for being the best. I feel like everyone says this, but being the best girl.
Then Ernios.
Yeah. Shout out Ernios. But yeah, no, thank you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. Yeah, that's really all I gotta say.
As usual, I'm going to link his YouTube down in the description box below, so go down there, check out his YouTube. I'll put his handle down for the Twitter, the Instagram, the TikTok. You already know what it is. He'd be putting a whole bunch of deck profiles on there, minute deck profiles. We might steal a couple of them, put a couple deck profiles out for us.
All yours.
And next time we are linking up, next time we go to a YCS or a regional or something like that, if you're going to come to the States at all, you're more than welcome to come crash over here. My house has definitely been accommodating for multiple traveling duelists, so you're more than welcome to come out here and compete if you really want to. You got a home over here, and if you need anything, feel free to reach out, because I'm definitely putting you up there. I fuck with you heavy, and I do appreciate what you bring to the game.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. I appreciate it.
No doubt. So without any further ado, guys, we have ran out of life points officially. Go down there in the description box, Linktree, Follow everything, giveaways, yada yada. You know the fucking deal. I am Player X, and this has been the Semi Limited Podcast. Thank you. Good night.